When a flight attendant refuses to serve a black passenger, it seems like just another rude encounter. But when the pilot steps in, the situation takes a shocking turn. Subscribe now to see how this story changes everything, and comment where you're watching from. It was a regular morning at the airport in Atlanta, a city buzzing with the usual rush of people hurrying to their gates. Among the sea of travelers was a woman named Simone Wright, sitting quietly by her window seat, gazing out at the blue sky, unaware of what was about to happen. It was just another flight for her, another business trip, another routine journey. Little did she know, this flight would change everything. Simone wasn't anyone famous, just a successful entrepreneur with her own company. But she didn't flaunt it. She liked to stay low-key, away from the limelight, and most people wouldn't know her name if they saw her on the street. She dressed simply, no flashy outfits, no expensive jewelry, just a woman on her way to a meeting. A regular passenger in the eyes of most people on the plane. But there was one person who would soon learn that Simone was far more important than she ever could have imagined. As the flight began, the passengers settled in, and flight attendant Carla made her rounds. Carla was known for her sharp, no-nonsense attitude, and when she passed by Simone's seat, she immediately noticed the woman sitting there, alone, no designer bags or luxury accessories. To Carla, she was just another average traveler, someone who probably didn't have much to offer. With a forced smile, Carla stopped at Simone's row. She spoke with an edge in her voice, as if already annoyed by the mere presence of the woman. "Ma'am," Carla said, her tone sharp, "can you please fasten your seatbelt? It's already past time to do so." Simone blinked in surprise, looking up at Carla, trying to process the sudden change in tone. She had been minding her own business, enjoying the quiet of the flight, but now her calm was being interrupted. "Of course," Simone replied softly, fastening her seatbelt without making a fuss. But Carla wasn't done. "The seatbelt sign is on. Everyone else is following the rules, and you should too," she added, her words cold and dismissive. Simone felt her heart race, but she didn't react. She was used to people misjudging her. Over the years, she'd grown thick skin and learned not to engage with people who didn't know her. But there was something in Carla's tone that felt off. It wasn't just about the seatbelt. It was the judgment in her eyes, the sense that Simone didn't belong here. The flight went on, but the tension lingered. Other passengers glanced nervously at the exchange, unsure if they should step in or not. Simone sat quietly, but her thoughts were racing. Why was Carla treating her like this? She wasn't doing anything wrong. She hadn't even asked for anything special. But Carla had already decided that Simone didn't deserve any respect. And as the hours passed, Simone couldn't shake the feeling that Carla was watching her, sizing her up, as if waiting for her to make a mistake. This was no longer about a simple seatbelt warning. It felt personal. When Carla finally moved to the back of the plane, Simone took out her phone. She needed to let her husband, Ray, know about the situation. Ray was the CEO of a major corporation, a man who worked hard for his success, and someone who had always told Simone to speak up when something wasn't right. She wasn't sure what would happen next, but she had to say something. She sent him a quick message, hoping he'd understand. "Hey, I just had a weird encounter with one of the flight attendants. She was really rude to me, and I can't shake the feeling that it's because of the way I look. It's not right." It wasn't a big message, but Ray would know what she meant. They didn't need to talk for hours to get the point across. Simone was upset, and she needed him to know. But what she didn't know was that Ray's response would set a chain of events in motion that no one could have predicted. Simone sat back in her seat, staring at the message she had just sent, and for a moment, the weight of the situation hit her, all at once. She wasn't just upset. This wasn't just about her. It was about how people like Carla thought they could treat others, how they assumed someone wasn't important enough to be treated with respect. Meanwhile, Carla continued to walk up and down the aisle, oblivious to what was about to happen. She handed out snacks, served drinks, and made small talk with the passengers who were polite enough to engage with her. She wasn't thinking about Simone anymore. After all, to her, Simone was just another anonymous face in the crowd, or so she thought. But Simone wasn't done. She wasn't going to let this go. She wasn't just going to sit back and let Carla's rude behavior slide. Something had to be done, not just for her, but for everyone who had ever been treated like they didn't matter. Simone had built her life on hard work and respect, and she wasn't about to let a flight attendant treat her like she was invisible. As the flight continued, Simone's thoughts were interrupted by a buzzing sound. Her phone vibrated with a new message from Ray. His words were clear and to the point. "I'll handle it. Don't worry about it." Simone read the message and felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. Ray wasn't the type to make empty promises. He was a man of action. He would take care of this. But even as she read his words, Simone still didn't know what exactly would happen next. Would Carla be punished? Would anything change? One thing was clear. Simone was no longer just a passenger on a plane. She was about to show Carla, and everyone else on that flight, that respect wasn't something that could be taken for granted. As the plane began its descent, Simone could feel the pressure building. She had no idea how Ray would handle the situation, but she trusted him. She knew he'd take care of it the right way, but even so, the unease from Carla's earlier treatment still lingered in the air. Simone felt her mind race, replaying the whole interaction in her head. Flight attendants were finishing up their duties, walking up and down the aisles, preparing for landing. Carla moved toward the front of the cabin, just another part of the routine she'd been following for years. But there was something different about Simone now. She wasn't just a quiet, passive passenger anymore. Her encounter with Carla had opened a door she didn't plan on closing. When the plane finally touched down and the seatbelt signs turned off, the passengers slowly began to stand, gathering their belongings. Simone, however, stayed in her seat a little longer. She took a deep breath, mentally preparing herself. She wasn't going to just walk off the plane and forget about the way she had been treated. No, this wasn't the time to stay quiet. Simone stood up, her heels clicking on the floor as she made her way down the aisle. As she passed Carla, the flight attendant gave her a polite smile, almost as if to erase the tension from their earlier exchange. Simone didn't respond with the same politeness. Instead, she walked up to the front of the plane, stopping right by the cockpit door, where she could stand without anyone rushing past her. Carla, still unaware of the storm she had just stirred up, didn't notice the shift in Simone's demeanor. She smiled, ready to wish Simone a generic, "Have a nice day." But Simone wasn't about to let it end there. "I'm not here to argue," Simone started, her voice calm but steady, making sure Carla heard every word. "I just wanted to let you know that I wasn't happy with how I was treated today. The disrespect wasn't just from you. It was from everyone who assumed I didn't belong." Carla froze for a moment, her smile faltering. She hadn't expected this. She tried to play it off, but Simone could see the shift in her eyes. It was the first crack in Carla's confidence, and Simone wasn't about to let it slip by. "I'm sorry if you felt that way," Carla muttered, trying to recover, but her voice lacked the conviction it had earlier. Simone could tell she wasn't expecting this kind of confrontation, especially not from someone she had dismissed as unimportant. Simone wasn't done yet. "It's not about your apology," she continued, her words cutting through the awkward silence. "It's about how you treat people. I don't need anyone to bow down to me, but I also don't need to be treated like I'm invisible. I'm the wife of the airline's owner, and I expect better." The words hit like a punch to the gut. Carla's face went pale as she processed what Simone had just said. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She couldn't believe it. The woman she had dismissed so easily, the one she thought didn't belong in first class, was the very person she should have been treating with respect all along. Before Carla could speak, Simone turned, her heels clicking sharply as she walked toward the exit. The moment was over. She had made her point. Carla stood frozen, unable to do anything but watch as Simone left the plane, her heart sinking with the realization of her mistake. As Simone made her way down the jet bridge, she felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. It wasn't about revenge, but about showing that no one, no matter who they were or how they looked, should be treated as less than. Simone had just reminded everyone on that plane, especially Carla, that respect wasn't something you could take for granted. Back inside the terminal, the passengers continued on with their day, but the atmosphere had shifted. The flight attendants were still going about their duties, but the subtle tension in the air couldn't be ignored. No one was talking about Simone's confrontation with Carla, but everyone who had witnessed it would remember it for a long time. Later that evening, Simone was at home, relaxing after the flight. Her phone buzzed with a call from Ray. She picked it up, already knowing what he would say. "Simone, I took care of it," Ray said, his voice calm but carrying a weight of authority. "Carla has been spoken to. She understands the mistake she made. I've also made a few changes to our training. Everyone on that flight and everyone else working for us will know that respect isn't something you earn based on how you look or who you are. It's something everyone deserves." Simone smiled, feeling a wave of relief. She knew Ray would handle it, but hearing it from him made it real. "Thank you," she replied. "I'm glad it's taken care of." Ray paused for a moment before speaking again, his voice softer this time. "I'm proud of you, Simone, for standing up, for reminding everyone that no one is invisible. It's not just about her or you. It's about changing the way people see each other." Simone felt her heart swell with pride. She hadn't just stood up for herself. She had stood up for everyone who had ever been treated unfairly. She had sent a message that would be remembered long after the flight had landed. As the night went on, Simone reflected on what had happened. The plane, the confrontation, the words spoken, it all felt like a turning point. A moment of quiet power that wasn't about status or privilege, but about basic human dignity. Simone had shown that no one should be judged based on their appearance or assumed worth. Everyone deserved respect, and she knew that by speaking up, she had made sure that the world, or at least that flight, would never be the same again. Simone's story isn't just about a flight attendant making a mistake. It's about the power of standing up against prejudice and the impact of small actions on a much larger scale. It's about respect, dignity, and the reminder that no one is ever truly invisible.